common sense ain't that common anymore. Seems common sense is past tense, just like the dinosaur. Political correctness has got a lot to answer for, 'cause common sense ain't that common anymore.
Now on weekends, the Treasury of Common Sense.
He's one of the brains behind macrobusiness.com.au. It's where I go to get my financial news and opinion every day. He's the chief economist at the MB Fund and MB Super. His name is Leith Van Onselen. And as I say, good morning to you, my friend. Despite being the world's largest coal exporter, second largest natural gas exporter, and having 30% of the world's uranium, somehow Australia is facing an energy scarce future. You just want to cry, don't you?
Oh, absolutely, Luke. This is an absolute disgrace what's going on here. So, as we know, the Albanese government set an 82% renewable energy target by 2030, and it's supposed to then ramp up thereafter. But at the same, so this requires that most of Australia's existing coal fleet, so our coal generators, will need to close. And the government's target is basically to replace the coal fleet with about 6 to 7 gigawatts per year of new large-scale renewable generation. So we're talking wind and solar here.
Yeah.
But just last year, the investment in this new large-scale renewable energy, so wind and solar projects, absolutely collapsed. So last year we only built 2.1 gigawatts, which was down from 4.3 gigawatts the year before, and that's tracking around one-third of the 6 to 7 gigawatts that's required under the government's targets. Now, at the same time as we want to shut down our coal generators, which provide 24/7 reliable power that is not dependent on the weather, it's baseload power, and replace it with all this intermittent stuff that we're not building out fast enough, Australia's facing a massive surge in energy requirements. And there's basically four main reasons for it, Luke. So, first of all, I mentioned, I think last week or the week before, the Centre for Population projects that the nation's population is going to balloon by nearly 50% over the next 40 years. We're going to add, over 13 million people. And that obviously means if you're going to add roughly 50% to your population, you're going to need about 50% more energy or household energy for those people. This isn't very controversial.
Yeah.
It's a pure numbers game.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, we're expected to build out dozens of these data centres to support AI, cloud, all this other stuff, right? Now, data centres require loads of electricity. They also require a lot of water for cooling, and we're obviously short of water, as residents of Sydney know, and Brisbane and elsewhere. And the thing about it is, if we're going to build out these data centres, we're going to have 50% roughly population growth. We're going to need lots of energy-guzzling desalination plants to be built to provide the water for these things. And guess what? Desalination plants require heaps of electricity. And then finally, the government set a target that basically 50% of all new car sales will be electric by 2030, whereas the Australian Energy Market Operator also assumes that the existing car fleet is going to basically be purely electric by about the 2040s. So we're going to get rid of all our petrol and diesel-driven cars, and they're going to supposedly run on electricity. Well, guess what? We're going to need a hell of a lot of electricity for that too, right?
Yeah.
So we're facing basically a four-headed monster of massive population growth, the build-out of data centres, desalination plants to supply the water to the growing population and data centres, and then we're supposed to electrify our entire vehicle fleet effectively, which requires tons of electricity. So where is the logic in shutting down our only source of 24/7 baseload power generation that is not dependent on the weather, that can operate at full tilt, rain, hail, or shine, whatever, like just 24/7 basically.
Yeah.
And how are we going to actually have economic security and lowish cost power to meet these growing energy needs? And this is a very telling thing that happened this month. So there's a guy called Larry Fink. He's the CEO of BlackRock, which is one of the world's biggest investment firms. And this guy, Larry Fink, has been for years touting the renewable transition, net zero, blah, 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 all this sort of stuff, because obviously that's where he was investing his money. But then he actually fronted the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos this month, where he said, quote, that wind and solar alone, quote, can't reliably keep the lights on. He also said that, quote, the world is going to be short power and that we need dispatchable, non-weather dependent sources like nuclear, coal, gas, etc., to power all these data centres. So here's a question for our policymakers, if anybody's listening to this show. How is Australia going to meet this massive energy requirement by shutting down our baseload power, not building nuclear power plants to replace it, which are zero emission, and somehow magically expecting to run the economy, to run data centres, which need 24/7 power, to run our manufacturers, to run all our households, etc., on power sources that rely on the sun, which only shines X number of hours per day in winters, obviously curtailed, and wind, which only works when the wind blows. This just does not add up to me. And, I fail to see how the government's renewables dominant energy system can deliver affordable and reliable energy to Australia. It is just an impossible pipe dream, Luke.
And you've got to take into account, which you mentioned, the cost, and it's now unaffordable here. So how can we for a moment think we're going to be part of this huge data center driven future when exactly everything you just said? And can someone point, Leith, I think this is another thing to say, anywhere else on the planet where they've ditched baseload reliable power for completely renewable power? Now, they'll rush out and say, oh, what about the gas? What about, okay, how much gas have you built? Where's the new gas? I mean, it's, mate, I mean, you get called all sorts of things for taking the stance that you take, which is the obvious common sense approach. I mean, how can you possibly? And yet these guys, particularly the people in government, those that are brought up and subscribe to the renewables only future, pumping in daddy's billions of various other things, they just continue the farce. And I say again, where on else on planet Earth has this happened? Where energy's ended up cheaper, like you say it will, and as reliable, like you say it will, and there's nowhere. It's just nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm a pragmatist on this, right? I don't really care where the energy comes from. I just want it to be reliable and affordable and actually maintain Australia's industrial base and to basically give us power when we need it so that we can and so that we can actually compete in the global economy. Because at the moment, we're just driving up gas and electricity prices. We're sending all our manufacturing offshore to places like China where we sell most of our energy to.
Yeah.
It just makes no sense.
Makes no sense. Now, this week we have one of these. And she's become a bit of a regular in this segment, the former ACTU president, mate.
Yeah, and also former federal Labor MP, Jennie George. Now, she's got the gong, I think, for the second or third time here. And the reason for this is because, she's a patriot. She's willing to go against the union base or her former union base, her former party, to basically pour pressure on the federal government on gas policy and also these renewable subsidies. So in a comment published in The Australian this week, George blasted the secrecy surrounding renewable subsidies. So she said that from a Labor government that promised accountability and transparency, it's unbelievable that the whole of system cost of their renewable transition remains hidden, public scrutiny. She said that, quote, without billions in subsidies, their renewables transition would have collapsed. She also called for a comprehensive audit by the Auditor General and more intervention by senators at Senate estimates about these subsidies, where they're going, how much it's costing, all these sorts of things. Yeah. And she's also, this is an important, pertinent point, she directly attacked the Teals, which are obviously, funded by the climate lobby, for constantly banging it out about integrity in politics and all that sort of thing, but having absolutely nothing to say about the many, many billions in opaque hidden subsidies for the renewables. Like we basically need the light to be shined on this stuff so we know where the money's going and whether it's good value for money, et cetera, et cetera. So, and then to top it off, she then has penned an article in The Australian today, an excellent article, also attacking Labor's pathetic East Coast reservation scheme, which she said will do nothing to improve supply in the next 5 years, similar to what I argued last week. And she also said that we're likely to see gas being imported into the East Coast, even though we export about 3/4 of it, which is going to drive up prices, send our manufacturers broke, etc. And she said that basically, our entire manufacturing system is at risk, and that unless we, fix the situation, that we're going to actually ultimately put at risk our national security. So, Jennie George, as I said, she's a former ACTU president. She's a former federal Labor MP. She's also a patriot. And she's not afraid to break ranks and go against her former Labor and union colleagues for the national interest. And we actually need more people like her to stand up.
Yeah, you're right.
Call this stuff out. And because too often in Australia, we're divided down party lines, right? It's sort of, it's almost like we're at a football match cheering for our team.
Yes, everything ends up left v right, doesn't it?
That's it. Yeah. But what we really need, we just need sensible people to basically take sensible positions.
Yeah.
And if that means you anger your former colleagues who aren't prepared to stand up on these issues, so be it. But look, good on her. She's a champion because she's willing to come out publicly, put her neck on the line to call out what is effectively BS.
Yeah, great stuff. Have a good weekend, mate. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Luke.
Good on you. Leith Van Onselen, macrobusiness.com.au.